On today's episode,
I think first of all, we are coming from a scenario where Europe has underinvested in defense for more than 30, 40 years maybe. And this is something that is not a quick build-up. This will take some time to build up the capabilities again. We need to build a strong defense again. We need to create peace through strength. So exactly how this will play out, but it's a really wake-up call for Europe.
welcome to SuiteTalk, an active share series that taps into the minds of top business leaders. I'm your host, Hugo Scott-Gall. I'm delighted to welcome Daniel Ljunggren, President and CEO of MilDef. Daniel has been instrumental in taking MilDef from a small, unlisted technology company to a publicly traded leading defense technology company with a growing European footprint. With a master's in business administration and a career as an authorized public accountant, Daniel joined MilDef in 2011 as CFO. In 2020, he became the executive vice president. In 2023, he became president and CEO. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Hugo. Really nice to be here and meet all of you, and thank you for inviting me.
Is this really your podcast debut?
It's my first international one. I've done a couple of in Sweden, but the first international one, so that's correct.
Well, they always say you've never really done a podcast till you've done an international one. So you don't look in any way nervous, and nor should you be. So let's just set this up. Let's do a little bit about MilDef. Could you talk to me a little bit about, in the whole sort of defense landscape, what makes you different? Where do you sit in that landscape?
MilDef is a provider of tactical IT, so we are the ones that are providing and offering the IT backbone to the defense forces, so to say. Could be digitalization of a vehicle or other different platforms or other IT tactical solutions. So we are a part of digitalization of the defense forces, so that's our core business, and that is what we have done now for more than 25 years. So it's mainly the hardware, but we also have software and services in our portfolio. So that is our contribution to the defense-keeping peace forces, that we are giving them the edge by adding the digitalization part of it. So it's about communication, a position, and sensor systems, and all of those kind of things that give you some kind of advantage on the field.
I think they're called rugged PCs, right? Why are they rugged?
It's around the rugged business, I'd say. And the rugged is about, they normally are out in field, and out in field, you can't use your commercial IT equipment because that would be broken quite quickly. So you need something that is really harsh and that is done to this harsh environment. And that is what we are providing.
So you said there, it's not just hardware, more and more it's software around the hardware. Has that required you to evolve your skill set as a company? You used to make pretty good hard stuff. Now it's actually as much about the software, it's about integration. How do you innovate? How do you get the right skills to do that?
Exactly. MilDef is something else today that was just a couple of years ago. By acquisitions, we have added, as I said, software and services. So the offering is expanding, and that is also forcing MilDef to be in the front when it comes to innovation all the time. So it's about having the right people and the right mindset, and making sure that also we are listening very carefully into the customer, what they need. So we don't do innovation that is going on the other direction. It's very important for us that we are doing things closely with the customer, the end customer. So we are on top of what they really need in the end.
I think I saw on your advisory board, you've got a few retired 3- and 4-star generals. Are they valuable for experience, for network, or are they valuable for product insights?
Mostly for the network. They have been an important door opener on some markets. So that is how we have been able to use that advisory board.
And when it comes to competition, what are you really competing on? Is it capability? Is it relationship? Is it ongoing relationship? If you think about the moats around your business, is it you just got better products, or is it actually service as well around it?
I think a big portion of this threshold in this market that we are operating in is that this is a trust business, and we have delivering a product that hasn't failed on the field for more than 25 years. So we are really field proven and a trustful supplier into this industry. And I think that is very important to remember as well. And we have spent the last 25 years as a company to developing and delivering products within this area. So we have gained a lot of knowledge around what works and doesn't work in this industry and in our tactical IT niche. And I think that is our big advantage, that we have a high competence and knowledge around how we can put these products on the field and they will not fail.
Okay, let's go bigger picture, because right now European defense is bigger picture. The world arguably has changed, and maybe the world of the last 40 years has changed. And obviously it's a combination of a hot war in Ukraine. It's a combination of perhaps the security blanket, security protection provided by the US to parts of the rest of the world, including Europe, is maybe being withdrawn. I've painted a radically different picture of the world today versus 10 years ago. My overall statements, do you agree with them? Am I understating, overstating?
Just to be clear, you're absolutely right that this is a new world. And I think for the defense industry, and especially in Europe, it's a total new landscape. The demand has never been this high. This is a ramp up that no one that operates now, that are working in the professional life or have seen this before. So this is something totally new for the defense industry in Europe. And Europe has said that there will be a quick defense ramp up. So it's absolutely something new, at least. And I think that we hear on the news and from the political side that there is a lot of money that will be spent into the defense industry. So what I hear when I listen to other CEOs at the European defense companies, that we are seeking a little about what will happen here in the future, a little bit on secure, how fast this would go, etc. But no one has been in this environment before. So this is something new for us. And I think we need to be humble about that and also be very on our toes, so to say, what will be the next step here.
If you subscribe to the view that you get peace through strength, it's not easy, but you can measure military capability of different countries. So there must be, and I think this is being already outlined by European governments, a kind of minimum level of military capability through strength to bring peace. That actually Europe's right now, its military capability, whether that is material, whether that is naval power, whatever it is, however you measure it, is not where it needs to be to deal with a more potentially expansionist or certainly more aggressive Russia in a more complex world. Have you thought about it? I'm not going to ask you to kind of express it as a percentage or anything like that, but to be strong enough to feel sure that actually that strength acts as a deterrence, how far away from that are we? Never mind what's possible, never mind what politicians are prepared to write checks for, but are we talking orders of magnitude of spending to get up to a capability that acts as a strong deterrence?
I think, first of all, we are coming from like a scenario where Europe has underinvested in defense for more than 30, 40 years maybe. And this is something that is not a quick build-up. This will take some time to build up the capabilities again. Unfortunately, as I said, underinvested over 40 years, something like that. And it feels like this insurance, so to say, it needs to come in place again. We need to build a strong defense again. We need to create peace through strength. So exactly how this will play out, but it's a really wake-up call for Europe. So that is something that is really shaking the defense industry in Europe now. And all of us are looking for how we can increase our capabilities, how we can increase volumes, delivering more, finding the right resources, etc. So it's we're already up and running at full speed. And I think that is this is just probably the beginning of the beginning. This is a ramp up that will take 5, 10, maybe 20 years before we are done with this defense ramp up in Europe.
And that creates a challenge for you as a CEO, how to grow fast enough to meet demand, what's too fast growth, what risks maybe destabilizing the company. Every company wants to grow, but there are constraints and limits, certainly in the short term. How do you think about that?
That is one of my biggest concerns, actually. That is a growing pain for the company, and how we can tackle that as a company, as a management group, for example. Where can we find resources? How can we be able to continue to operate with a culture within the company that we like? How can we having people on board that we enjoy being on board on MilDef, etc. So there is a lot of tons of different challenges when it comes to addressing this quick ramp up. But so far, MilDef has been able to find the right resources. We have taken step all the time, and I think we are ready to do more than we're doing today. So we are in front of taking a little bit risk as well when it comes to being a little bit faster ramping up the capabilities than what the volumes are coming in. So I think we are in a quite good position. But as I said, I think, yes, we are in the beginning of the beginning. And this will strengthen the organization even more and challenge the organization even more, because there will be a lot of growing pain 5 years out in time.
How much is it physical constraints versus, so physical capital constraints, access to key ingredients, resources versus human capital restraint? Is this going to see any industry that really expands very fast, expands supply very fast, creates shortages? Is this going to lead to I was going to say a war for talent, probably the wrong words, but is this going to lead to a hotly contested market for top talent?
I think we need to find different ways to operate. I think we need to be able to rethink how we do things, and maybe not just adding on more things that we have done before. I think we need to learn in the defense industry in Europe to cooperate even more together and see how we can find strength to be able to deliver even more. But of course, there will be maybe a lack of talent in the industry. There is, on the positive side, I would say that people are now seeking work towards the defense industry, because last 20 years, maybe people are mostly seeking their way from the defense industry because the money has gone out of the door. But now when the money is back on the table and the innovation is back on the table, there's also a lot of people wants to join the defense industry. So the engineerings and things like that we're seeing that they're coming back again to the defense industry. They're seeing that they can do a significant difference in this one, and also that they can, where the defense industry can be on top of the innovation part again. Maybe that was lost 20, 30 years ago, but people seeing that now that the defense industry, with all the money flooding into the system, could be a really interesting employer.
And that's the historic pattern, that when you invest heavily in military defense capabilities, this intersection of military, industrial, technology, usually there are creative sparks that lead to innovations, adaptations that have spillover effects into the economy. The most famous example, obviously, is out of DARPA, you get the internet. But for Europe, which has been, in a malaise, secular stagnation plus at least two financial crises quite close together. Do you feel, this is with your kind of broader view, this could well be quite stimulative to the European economy for some time?
I think so. I think there will be a lot of ripple effects in the economy as well. This will not just only impact in the defense industry, it will impact the sub-suppliers of the defense industry and the whole ecosystem around the defense industry. So hopefully this will be a boost that Europe really needs when it comes to getting the growth back again in general terms, let's say.
How freaked out, that's a technical term, do you feel European governments are by the idea of the US no longer being as reliable as it was, and the idea that there's a sort of kill switch in equipment that's bought or systems that are bought from the US that makes European governments incrementally warier and more averse to buying US, therefore favoring local? Are you seeing that already?
We have seen the directives they are giving as well, that they need to strengthen the European supply chains as well when it comes to the defense industry. So they have really taken some initiative towards that, how they can strengthen the European defense industry, and not by buying so much from the US, buying less from the US and more from Europe. So I think they are afraid, and I think they have realized now that Europe needs to be standing on their own legs when it comes to the security part. So my point of view is that they're really taking this serious when it comes to, will US really back up Europe? Will US have their leading part in NATO, or will they step down from that, etc.? So I think they really woke up and realized that we need to strengthen the European defense together, and that is what we're seeing here and now. And they have taken a couple of action towards that already.
So as you put all this together, this really is a multi-decade change, and for you in terms of demand, in terms of customer base for Europe. I think most CEOs have to think big picture and have to think longer term, but you really do.
We need to do. I think we're forced to do that. We need to invest here and now for the long-term game. And MilDef is a player that really wants to be here in the long term as well. We have operated, as I said already, almost 30 years in this business. We have full focus now on really being a relevant player, being a helpful player when it comes to this European defense ramp up. So that is what we're really acting for and planning for, and talking all day long about how we could be a 10, 20 years relevant player in this defense ramp up. So we're trying to turn every stone we can and see what we can find and then how we can increase our capabilities.
So I'm always interested in asking about culture. Now, there are all sorts of different definitions not commonly agreed upon around culture, how to measure it, what is it, what's a good culture. I think it's easy to identify bad culture, but success breeds success. So I imagine if you could take a barometer, a measure, a culture index of your company, what's happened even just this year must have everyone's morale up. It must really help. So I imagine your culture suddenly feels better because your growth prognosis is pretty good. Is that how you see it, or how do you think about culture?
I think even if I said that the big challenge is the growing pain, we also see, of course, that there is a lot of people in the organization who really feel motivated about being an important puzzle piece into the European defense ramp-up. So that is really important for all of our almost 500 employees as well. They're going to work every day and really feeling motivated that they are playing an important role in giving the best equipment to our defense-keeping forces here in Europe. So I think that is a good way to put it, that the motivation for the people has really gone up. They feel that they are in a place where they can do a difference in the end. So I think that is an important component as well, to remember that people are not just into this as an ordinary work, they are also into this to really help creating the peace again in Europe.
So I want to ask you just some questions about you as a CEO, because I always find this very interesting. And the first question I'm going to ask you is, like, how do you make decisions? Are you think about it, go for a long walk, by the end of the walk you're going to make a decision? Are you, back of your mind, you're just turning it over a period of weeks? Do you have 2 or 3 people, obviously you don't need to name them, who you always bounce ideas off? Are you a talker? Are you a thinker? Are you a ponderer? Are you gut feel decisive?
That's a really good question. I think mostly I'm a talker. I would like to brainstorm with other people, well-trusted people I am close to me in the organization, for example, where we together can come up with some kind of solution that we think will work, and from that we can execute. I also like, in the bigger picture, of course, like take as much as data-driven decision as possible, but sometimes you need to take from the gut feeling as well. But if you can support that with the data you have, at least you have something to build it up with. But as I said, mainly a talker, and I would like to brainstorm with some people that I know are very wise and can give me some good advice and a good angle of different things. So, but of course, taking a lonely walk sometimes is also maybe a good answer to how you can get to the right answers.
Decide, move on, or you're an active reviewer, post-mortem, and kind of how do you deal with, I got that one wrong?
Decide, move on is probably my style. I would like to take a decision, and a quite quick decision, and then we can take a new decision based if we didn't take the right decision from the beginning. But not taking any decision at all, I think, is the worst part of it. You need to take a decision, move on, and then you need to be prepared to take a new decision if it turns out that the first decision was not really the best one. So that's probably my view of it.
Do you wake up in the middle of the night, or do you sleep well every night?
I sleep pretty good, actually. Thank you. Most of the nights I sleep really, really good, actually. But of course, from time to time, there is some issues or problems or challenges that you face as a CEO that can keep you not awake at night, maybe, but you can spend most of your time waking to think about. So that's the task that the CEO needs to take on, and what's in the role. I normally say to my colleagues that bring me the bad news, because that is something that I need to deal with. And the good news are normally taken care of themselves.
If you compared yourself today to, say, I don't know, 15 years ago, what are you like at assessing people, whether it's through interview or people that report to you, your insights into where people need to improve, what they do well, and your overall assessment of them? Are you getting better at it, and have you changed your process? Because assessing human capital, in every business we all do it. I don't think you're ever really particularly trained for it, and it's a skill, but it's a learned skill, I think.
I agree totally with that. Mainly, I will try to figure out what kind of person I'm leading and what kind of people that we're talking to, and see kind of how can we address that in the best way. I don't think that you can use the same leadership style all the time. You need to adopt different situations, different people. So you need to adopt your different leadership style, etc. Trying to find the best way how you can motivate people and how you can get them feel that they really want to be a part of this and do the best they can. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of message I will send depending on what kind of situation do we have here and what type of people are the ones who will receive the message. I also think add on that on April Lipke back from 10 years now, I'm training at least to be giving a straightforward and honest feedback quite quickly. I think that is important as well for the colleagues around me to understand that I'm trying to work in that. So we think having constructive feedback is very important.
What do you think are the best incentives for people to do their best work? Is it position in a hierarchy? Is it financial compensation? Is it acknowledgement, praise of good work? Jensen Huang at NVIDIA, if someone has a great idea, he gives them a cash bonus almost on the spot. I mean, that's one extreme, one way of doing it. And for lots of companies, that wouldn't work. I'm interested in your observations from being a leader for quite some time of what really actually consistently works with people to get them to do their best work.
I haven't noticed during my year as a leader, of course, that the people are different. People have different motivation factors. Of course, some are driven by money and some are driven by something else. But I think in general terms, I think that the money is quite short-term and motivated. You need to find something that is more for the long-term motivation. And what that can be could be different from different person. But I think you need to look beyond just the short-term cash incentive things. You need to find different way why people really want to just put in all the hours that they are doing to create something good together. That needs to be something else than just making money in the end.
And what's the thing you've found hardest in your time as a CEO?
The hardest time?
The hardest thing, the thing that's caused you the most stress or doubt?
It's a really good question. It could be depending on different things and different situations, I would say. But of course, every time you have a negative message to the staff and the people that has been working around you, or people in the organization that has been with the company for a long time, exactly, and you have some kind of negative message to delivering, of course, that is always hard when it comes down to people and making people disappointment or sad because they believed in something else, but you need to take another decision. And that is probably the hardest way to, when you have that kind of thing. But I think it's also important that you can give those kind of messages in a humble and honest and straightforward way, so you don't try to make it sound better than it is.
Okay, one final question, big picture. The future of war, and I think if you asked, I don't know, people 10 years ago, what's the future of war look like? They say it's going to be robots, it's going to be this. But in Ukraine, there's, in some ways, it still looks like, say, the Second World War or even the First World War. But I'm interested in your view on the role of drones, robots, how high tech is it? Do you think it's going to be, or actually it's still about volume of humans and things like bullets and guns and tanks?
It's a good question. I don't think we never can come away from some of things like, in the bullets and tanks, but of course there will be a develop. I think there will be a develop much more around unmanned things like drones, could be other things as well, unmanned vehicles and things like that. I think we will have a high degrees, a high push for digitalization of the individual soldier. There's something in this niche going on that is called dismounted soldier concept. That they're really trying to make digitalization of each individual soldier. Today, maybe that is more on the platforms, like a vehicle or something like that. But I think we will see a high demand for digitalization of all the areas within a warfare. We have the AI, for example. We don't really know how that will play out in the end and what kind of effects that will create on how you're making war. But I think there will be a quite big change. But I also think that MilDef as a company, when it comes to, there will be always a high need of data power on the war field. So I think that we are in a good sweet spot here when it comes to increased defense spending, but also what they should spend the money on. There is more and more digitalization and data power out in the field.
Great. Daniel, thank you very much for coming on the show. I feel delighted that I was able to host you on your international podcast debut, but more importantly, thanks for sharing so much about how you think and operate as a CEO, but obviously also talking about the very strong change and robust demand outlook that the European defense industry has. So thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of SuiteTalk. If you found this discussion inspiring and informative, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us bring you more engaging content and connect with top business leaders. Follow us on social media and visit our website for more episodes and content. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep leading. This is Hugo Scott-Gall signing off from SuiteTalk.
This content is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice or a recommendation to buy or sell any security or to adopt any investment strategy. Investment advice and recommendations can be provided only after careful consideration of investors' objectives, guidelines, and restrictions. As of the date of this recording, William Blair Investment Management held positions in the company referenced in one or more of its investment strategies. References to specific companies are for illustrative purposes only and should not be construed as investment advice or a recommendation to buy or sell any security. The securities identified and described do not represent all of the securities purchased, sold, or recommended for client accounts. It should not be assumed that any investment in the companies referenced was or will be profitable. The views and opinions expressed are those of the speakers as of the date of this recording and are subject to change without notice as economic and market conditions dictate, and may not reflect the views and opinions of other investment teams within William Blair Investment Management. Factual information has been obtained from sources we believe to be reliable, but its accuracy, completeness, or interpretation cannot be guaranteed. Any discussion of particular topics is not meant to be comprehensive and may be subject to change. This material may include forecasts, estimates, outlooks, projections, and other forward-looking statements. Due to a variety of factors, actual events may differ significantly from those presented. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any investment or strategy mentioned herein may be not suitable for every investor.